10% of the people on medical assistance live right in Woonsocket, in the state. And by trade, I'm a pharmacist. And I've got so many stories of fraud and abuse in the welfare system. It's incredible. I was working in Woonsocket and had women on medical assistance wanted to get 6 months supply of their medicine. And I told them, no, you can only get a month's supply at a time and you can get it refilled, so you have to come back every month. She didn't like that idea, so she went home and called her social worker. The social worker called me about an hour later and said, no, you have to give her 6 months supply of her medicine. So I did, and come to find out the reason she wanted 6 months supply of her medicine, she was spending the winter in Hawaii. And you paid for that. The state employee pensions and job security. Even when the government tries to cut state payrolls, what happens is the guy at the top never gets fired. It's always the last guy hired that's at the bottom that gets cut because of bumping. So even if you're making $100,000, you're totally incompetent, you probably don't even show up for work, you still can't get fired because you get bumped down to the $80,000 job. The guy making $80,000 gets bumped down to the $60,000 job. And it goes all the way down to the new guy that just got hired 3 months ago, who's probably doing a great job, makes $26,000 a year. There's no accountability. Unions, it's almost impossible to fire somebody that's in a union. There's no incentive to excel in a union. There's no merit pay. Everything, all unions are based on years service. It doesn't matter whether you've been there 2 years, if you've been there 2 years and you're doing 10 times as much work as the guy that's been there 20 years. The guy that's been there 20 years is going to make more than you do. And it doesn't happen that way in the real world. And we all know that Rhode Island's pension system's underfunded to the tune of like $3 billion, because what they do is they just don't pay into the system. What they really need to do is change the whole pension system to like a 401k, where so much comes out of the person's pay, it goes into an account with their name on it, and the state has to match that. And then it's their money. None of this nonsense about no matter what happens to the investments, the taxpayers have to make up and guarantee that benefit that they're going to retire on. We can't afford to do, and nobody can afford to do that. I don't think there's a single company that has a private pension plan like that. So we have to change from a defined benefit plan where they guarantee that 80% of their last 3 years pay. And remember a few years back when the General Assembly changed, we voted constitutionally to change general offices to 4 years. They said it was going to save money in campaigns. It didn't save any money in campaigns. But I think the whole reason behind it is, once they get in power, they're there for 4 years, they can give their buddies those $80,000 and $100,000 a year jobs, then they retire based on the 3 years pay. There's people that worked in the General Assembly when they were getting paid $300 a year, so they paid like $30 a year into the pension system. Then they get that $100,000 a year job for 4 or 5 years. Your pension's based on the last 3 years. So there's people in Rhode Island collecting pensions that have paid probably $30,000 into the pension system, and they're collecting $70,000 pensions for life. And it's just insane. And not only that, people are living so much longer. When Social Security was first set up, the average lifespan in the United States was 47 years old, and they set the retirement age at 62. And I think there were 32 people working for every person that was collecting. Now it's almost down to 2 to 1. So 2 people are working today. Money comes out of their pay, goes right to somebody on Social Security. Social Security is one of the biggest Ponzi schemes ever. You would have been so much better off if the money went into a private investment of your own. If they had done that with your money, your employer's match, you would have 10 times as much money. So instead of getting that $1,200 a month check from Social Security, you'd get $12,000 interest. And that's what would have happened if it would have been kept in an account with your name on it. Social Security only returns like a 0.9% return a year, and nobody would stand for that. The welfare state. Since 1965, the United States has spent $7 trillion on anti-poverty programs. Has it solved anything? No. Basically, before 1964, private charities took care of everybody that really needed help. There was very little fraud, abuse, waste, because the people who really needed private charities, the Red Cross, churches, Salvation Army, they knew who needed help and who didn't. But now we've just grown this huge bureaucracy of social welfare programs. And they keep calling it a safety net. It's more like a trampoline. I mean, just...
Could you take the microphone in your hand, maybe step to the side a little bit?
Yeah, we can't see this full screen.
Oh. Thank you.
Okay, I mean, this is part of the problem with the Obamacare plan. Whenever anything's free, it's overabused, it's overused. People will use something that's free. I mean, have you ever gone to any kind of organization where they're handing out something free and that not be used? They're adding 30 million people to the rolls for health care. And 30% of the doctors in the country say they're going to quit their practices because the reimbursements aren't even worth keeping their practice open. So this Obamacare is just going to be a complete train wreck. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of tired of people making bad decisions and then we pay the bill. I mean, whether it's drug addiction, alcohol abuse, have multiple children. I can't tell you the number of medical assistance cards, but back when they have them now, they have debit cards, so they don't even have to do anything. You see one woman's name on it with 8 children with 4 different last names. I mean, it's just totally irresponsible behavior. And I think it's about time that we stop paying for it. If private charities want to pay for it, fine. And they learn the behavior from one generation to the next. There's just no incentive. I mean, I've seen 3 generations of the same family come in and get their, they get their Valium, get their painkillers, and it's just a continuous cycle. My family used to have a drugstore in Attleboro, and we used to sell lottery tickets. And of course, the first of every month, when the welfare checks came out, we'd sell a lot of lottery tickets. So that's where a lot of the money goes. Of course, the government doesn't mind that because they can get it back. And then there's that 6-month supply of your meds. So how do we get in this mess? Unions, the whole job of public service unions is to expand government. They want more jobs, which means more union dues. They have a vested interest in not doing anything efficiently. If they don't do it efficiently, then we have to hire more people to do the same job. And like I said, there's no incentive to do a good job. Everywhere I've worked that has a union, the net effect of a union is the good people leave because they don't need the protection of the union, and the union pay isn't good enough because they're good employees, they can earn more. The bad employees stay because they need the protection of the union. And then the mediocre employees say, well, I'll stay around because I like the job security, but that guy doesn't work hard, so I'm not going to leave him. So the whole union system just, there's no incentive to do anything well. Every government program, whenever it fails, the first thing they do is say they're understaffed and underfunded. How many times have you heard that? Every time there's a failure of any government system. So politicians give them more money, give them more manpower, and then 2 years later, something else happens. It fails. A couple of examples. Head Start. Everybody touts what a great program Head Start is. Most of the studies that have been done on Head Start show that the first few years after Head Start, the kids have an advantage. But after that, there's absolutely no difference. We're spending billions of dollars on Head Start, and it doesn't do anything. It's basically a glorified babysitting service. The DARE program. How many, does Cumberland and Lincoln have DARE programs? All the studies that have done, the University of Chicago, I think, has done 11 or 12 studies on the DARE program. 11 of them said that it accomplished absolutely nothing, and one said it actually increased drug use by introducing kids to drugs. And basically, it was a political payoff to the police unions, because right in the federal legislation, it says the DARE program has to be taught by a police officer in uniform. So it was basically just a political payoff. You can't have a doctor, a nurse, or a pharmacist go into a school under the DARE program and talk about drug abuse, which those are probably the most 3 qualified people to do it. But it has to be a police officer in uniform. The General Assembly has